My self-centered sister forced me to foot the bill for her engagement celebration, yet she and our parents left me out completely, treating me like I was worthless. So, I revoked everything and observed their world crumble. My name is Lauren, and I've forever been the ignored member of my household. Similar to the child lurking in the rear of every family snapshot, silently clutching treats or straightening things while others bask in the limelight. That's occupied my position for as far back as I can recall. It all kicked off when my little sister Amber entered the world. I was 5 years young, and prior to that, existence seemed uncomplicated and joyful. I was merely a youngster, doodling on surfaces, viewing animated shows, and absorbing every bit of affection and nighttime tales. Then Amber showed up, and it felt like somebody had thrown a lever. Abruptly, every focus moved to her. Initially, I assumed it was simply due to her being an infant. Infants require additional attention, correct? But this went beyond ordinary new brother or sister dynamics. My folks didn't merely cherish Amber, they essentially revered her. Mom would hoist her high and murmur, "Gaze at our tiny queen." Dad would beam as though she'd just discovered power. In the meantime, I lingered in the dim areas, displaying a sketch of a rocket I'd created, only for Mom to offer it a swift peek and remark, "That's adorable, dear," before admiring Amber's skill at chuckling precisely when prompted. By the period Amber reached 3, she dominated every household event. She began ballet sessions, and Mom would arrange small performances in our lounge, with all present applauding as Amber rotated in her glittering attire. I'm certain each family member possesses a clip of Amber whirling about while I'm positioned aside dispensing drinks or setting out biscuits. "Lauren, could you assist with that?" Mom would utter, scarcely raising her eyes as I distributed tissues. Amber was unquestionably gifted. She was constantly the initial pick for academy dramas or skill exhibitions. It seemed she possessed this innate allure that pulled everybody toward her. And myself? I was simply present. I didn't harbor bitterness toward her, not truly. I simply sensed unseen. It wasn't solely the major household occasions either, it was the routine matters. I'd returned from classes eager to reveal that I'd excelled in an arithmetic exam, but prior to uttering anything, Mom would interrupt, "Lauren, escort Amber outside to rehearse her flips. No inquiries about your day or well done, just yet another duty to aid Amber." And the housework? Goodness, the housework. Amber likely didn't even know the storage spot for the cleaning tool. Soiled plates? My responsibility. Clothing accumulating? Figure who. I mastered preparing meals at 8 since Mom was perpetually transporting Amber to ballet instructions. "You're the elder sibling," she'd declare. "You must set the standard." I didn't anticipate a medal for cleaning plates, but some recognition would have sufficed. The sole instance I received attention was when an issue arose. If Amber knocked over her beverage, it stemmed from my insufficient supervision. If she stumbled and scraped her joint, it was my error for lacking caution. I vow I received fault for occurrences even when I occupied a different space. Once, my instructor phoned residents to inform my folks I'd been guiding peers in natural sciences. I believed they'd feel pleased. Rather, Mom merely stated, "That's wonderful, Lauren. Have you cleaned the cooking area surface today?" The cooking area surface? Truly? Academy turned into my haven. I immersed myself in learning and enrolled in all groups possible, anything to remain distant from residents. I'd delay at the book collection post-classes to evade the perpetual "Lauren, could you handle this for Amber?" Amber, in the interim, was accumulating honors. She owned a rack in the lounge devoted to her prizes. Ballet, skill exhibitions, even an arbitrary verse competition she joined impulsively. If she merely opened her eyes, Mom and Dad were praising. If I highlighted the disparity, I was branded uncooperative or envious. One holiday season, I requested a collection of drawing markers since I adored creativity. My present? A bundle of basic graphite sticks, the type you'd locate in a lecture hall. Amber? She received a tailored ballet outfit and a movable practice rail. I doubt she even whispered a gratitude. The most painful aspect? Amber wasn't harsh. She wasn't aiming to target me. She merely lived, and everybody behaved as if that sufficed. She didn't need to effort, didn't need to merit anything. It all flowed to her because she was Amber. When I turned 12, I questioned Mom why Amber never handled housework. She merely lifted her shoulders and replied, "She's so occupied with her pursuits. You're skilled at maintaining order, Lauren." That concluded it. No debate, no consideration that perhaps I was fatigued as well. By 13, I'd embraced my position as the household's unrecognized assistant. Amber was the lead, and I was merely a minor role in her narrative. It wasn't just, but what options existed. Then, an opportunity emerged at Academy. My past events instructor revealed an end-of-week journey to the state capitol, a significant occasion where we'd explore galleries, enter the legal building, and encounter regional figures. Just a handful of learners were selected, and I secured a spot. I was ecstatic, nearly shaking with anticipation. I dashed residents, flourishing the approval form. Mom, this journey will be amazing, I exclaimed. She hardly raised her gaze from her device. That's pleasant, dear. Pleasant? Mom, it's a major achievement, I stated. We're lodging in a lodging, exploring the leader's residence, viewing the state records. She examined the form and scowled. Lauren, this occurs next end of week. Yes, I understand. She shook her head. You cannot attend. My spirit dropped. What? Why? Amber has her ballet presentation that end of week, she remarked, as if evident. We require you to aid with refreshments and outfits. I gawked, awaiting her to chuckle, but she was utterly earnest. Mom, this is an academy journey. It's learning-oriented. Can't you handle Amber's presentation without me once? She exhaled, as though I was troublesome. Lauren, avoid being self-focused. Amber requires you. Dad added from the sofa, gaze fixed on the screen. Your sibling has a promising path, Lauren. You ought to feel honored to assist her. Honored? Of collapsing leaflets and cutting produce while my peers explored historical locations? But this is important to me, I uttered, my tone fracturing. Mom dismissed it. Other journeys will arise. They didn't. The journey was an uncommon happening, and by its next occurrence, I'd exceed the age. That end of week, as my companions shared images from the capital, I occupied a humid hall, observing Amber bound over the platform as my folks shouted like she performed at a renowned venue. I desired to yell. Amber secured a small award that day. Mom forced me to capture images of her displaying with it. All grins. Isn't she remarkable? She uttered, elbowing me. Yes, I whispered. Remarkable. Shortly afterward, Amber's ballet path encountered an obstacle. In a session, she dropped from the equipment, and the crack of her joint rang in my thoughts for many days. Mom hurried her to the medical center, and they came back with Amber's limb in a wrap and a serious outlook. The physician cautioned that her joint might never recover complete movement, basically terminating her rival ballet aspirations. Mom was devastated, walking the residence. What shall we do? Ballet was her entire existence. Dad rested in his chair, massaging his brow. This is a disaster. I was in the eating area attempting to concentrate on equations when Mom burst in. Lauren, this stems from you. I halted. What? You ought to have been present to monitor her warm-ups. She barked. I wasn't even at her session. Precisely, she retorted. You're never available when required, always pursuing your own matters. I was mute. Dad joined. If you devoted less period complaining and more assisting, perhaps this wouldn't occur. That sealed it. I was confined for a lunar cycle. No device, no screen, no companions. Not that I possessed many. My existence reduced to academy, housework, and my folks' perpetual shame inducements. Amber, in the meantime, capitalized on her wound like an expert. She'd lounge on the sofa, wrap elevated, shouting, Lauren, fetch me a fizzy drink. Or, Mom, instruct Lauren to aid with my tasks. I attempted not to despise her. She was merely enacting the part our folks had scripted for her. But it didn't simplify it. My sole escape was the neighborhood pastry shop run by my companion Mia's guardians. It was a cozy, calm sanctuary where I could inhale. Mia and I would spend time there post-academy, assembling confection containers or cleaning surfaces. Her guardians, Scott and Donna, were the type who noticed. If I appeared drained, Donna would inquire if I'd consumed. If I performed well, Scott would remark, good effort, youngster. It was minor, but it signified everything. My folks could have resembled that, but they were overly occupied adoring Amber to observe me faltering directly before them. I ceased anticipating alteration. If they hadn't recognized me yet, they never would. By 18, I was merely enduring routines at residence. I evaded conversing with my folks unless vital and allocated every free instant at academy, the book collection, or the pastry shop. Residence wasn't residence. It was a location I was trapped until I could flee. Final academy year delivered a spark of promise. I'd labored intensely in studies, and it succeeded when I gained entry to a public university. It wasn't elite, but it was solid, and it included a partial grant. I delayed until supper to disclose the update, anticipating a second of their focus. Dad was carving meat, and Amber was attached to her device as typical. I pushed my entry document over the surface. I was admitted, I uttered, maintaining my tone firm. Mom eyed it, then returned to her dish. That's wonderful, Lauren, wonderful. I'd invested years into this, and all I received was wonderful. I continued. It's manageable. The grant handles part of the fees. I simply require some aid with the remainder. Mom exhaled, as if I demanded a vessel. We're not securing debts, Lauren. I'm not seeking debts, I replied swiftly. Just minor aid to begin. I'll repay you. I'll document it if desired. Dad raised his gaze. Not all require university, Lauren. Some fare better simply securing employment. Amber grinned slyly, still browsing. Yes, perhaps you should have considered that prior to squandering all that period learning. I clenched my cloth beneath the surface. This isn't squandering. I've calculated. I'll complete, secure work, and repay you. Mom shook her head. We lack the funds, Lauren. Be realistic. Perhaps employment at the market. I gazed at my dish, holding back moisture. They possessed the funds, I knew. Amber's ballet instructions, creative materials, and melody sessions weren't inexpensive. But for me? Zero. Post-supper, I headed to the pastry shop, hoping to locate Mia. She was polishing the surface when I entered, and one glance at my expression informed her an issue existed. What's happening? She questioned, dropping the cloth. I revealed all. My entry, my request for aid, and my folks' rejection. I performed everything correctly, I uttered, my tone fracturing. Strong marks, groups, all, and they don't mind. Mia was silent momentarily, which differed from her. Typically she'd jest to ease, but this occasion she merely nodded. Remain here, she uttered, moving to the rear. Soon after, she came back with her guardians. I wasn't prepared for the following. Lauren, Donna uttered, seating opposite me. Mia informed us the situation. We desire to assist. I shook my head. No, I can't request that. You're not requesting, Scott interrupted. We're providing. You've contributed to this pastry shop for years. We observe your diligence. You merit this. Donna nodded. We'll handle your fees. You can labor here partial periods post-lectures and repay when prepared. No haste, no extra. I couldn't comprehend. These individuals who weren't kin were performing more for me than my own folks ever had. Moisture formed, not from fury, but from ease. That evening, I returned residence and gathered my items silently. No major display, just attire and necessities. My entry document placed atop, an emblem of my departure. When I departed the following morning, my folks scarcely observed. Mom was occupied preparing flat cakes for Amber and Dad was partially through the exit. Amber didn't raise her gaze from her device. University resembled entering a fresh realm. It wasn't flawless. I balanced lectures, pastry shifts, and the ongoing pressure of lacking funds. But it belonged to me. I could ultimately concentrate on myself. My lodging was simple, with a squeaky mattress and a companion, Steph, who adored playing upbeat tunes at strange times. We weren't extremely intimate, but we managed. Connecting over delayed learning periods and inexpensive slices, it was pleasant to be viewed as just Lauren, not Amber's sibling. Lectures were demanding. I was pursuing enterprise oversight, which initially seemed dull, but it appealed to me. The ideas, allocating, organizing, resolving issues resembled what I'd handled at the pastry shop, merely larger. The pastry shop stayed my foundation. I labored evenings and ends of week, managing requests, filling racks, and conversing with frequent visitors. It wasn't elegant, but I cherished it. I sensed involvement in something genuine. One day, Scott summoned me to his workspace. I prepared, thinking I'd erred, but rather he gave me a writing pad. You're performing excellent labor, Lauren. We're aiming to expand our serving side and desire you to direct it. I stared. Me? Direct it? You're structured, reliable, and skilled with figures, he uttered. We rely on you. I was stunned. No one had ever granted me such duty. I won't disappoint, I uttered. And I intended it. Directing serving was demanding, but it seemed a landmark. I plunged in, forming timetables, managing requests, and even crafting advertising sheets. We began modestly, serving learning groups and grounds occasions, but each task seemed a success. My lectures began linking to my labor. Ideas like coordination or allocating clicked when I used them to serving. I'd rest in sessions thinking, this mirrors last week's occasion setup. It sustained my drive, even when drained from delayed evenings and strict limits. There were instances I questioned myself, pondering if it merited, but I'd recall my purpose. To construct an existence where I didn't respond to anyone, where I wasn't anyone's reserve. At residence, interaction with my household was scarce. Mom's contacts were infrequent and surface level. How's Academy? She'd inquire, then shift to Amber's newest pursuit. That gratitude holiday, I returned residence from obligation. Amber was at the surface, browsing her device, while Mom attended her new sketching sessions. I attempted to disregard, concentrating on my dish, but then Mom uttered something that halted me. We've been reserving for years to ensure Amber can join her ideal university. I halted, utensil midway to my lips. You've been reserving for Amber's university? Mom appeared confused. Naturally, we desire her to possess every chance. Every chance. The identical folks who instructed me to labor sales when I required fee aid. The identical who never questioned my marks or intentions. I uttered nothing further. I consumed quietly, their mirth irritating me. Amber appeared arrogant, as if it was expected they'd favor her. That evening, in my former space, I resolved, if they didn't view me as their child, I wouldn't behave as one. Our connection would be strictly functional henceforth. Separating was simpler than anticipated. The peak of my following year was encountering Mr. Wallace, a frequent at the pastry shop who always appeared sharp in his neat attire. He requested his standard brewed drink and pastry, and as I processed, he uttered, "Lauren, correct?" Yes, I uttered, surprised. "You've managed excellently here," he uttered. "This spot operates precisely, and that's challenging." "Thanks," I uttered, somewhat unsettled. "It's collective." "Still," he uttered, offering his professional note. "My organization constantly seeks intelligent, committed individuals. Contact me upon completion." I placed the note in my holder, my thoughts racing. I wasn't set to pursue yet, but realizing someone like him recognized capability in me seemed evidence I followed the correct route. By the close of following year, I'd repaid every unit Scott and Donna had advanced me for fees. Delivering them that last payment was a victory. I'd passed so long desiring my folks' endorsement, but now I understood I didn't require it. I had individuals who appreciated me, and that sufficed. Third year, I discovered my pace. Existence remained busy, but I had a flow. Lectures were firm, the pastry shop was prospering, and the path ahead seemed attainable. So when my folks contacted one dusk, it disrupted me. I nearly ignored, but interest prevailed. "Hi, Mom," I uttered, preparing for another Amber report. "Lauren," she uttered, her tone quivering. "We must converse." My gut clenched. "What's incorrect?" "It's just," she exhaled. "Your dad committed some poor monetary decisions, and we're finding it hard to cover expenses." I halted. "My folks never confessed frailty." "I'm regretful to learn that," I uttered cautiously. "We hoped you could assist," she uttered rapidly. "Just until stable. You've always been so reliable, and we know you're managing fine now." There it appeared. They didn't mind my existence or challenges. They merely desired something. "What aid type?" I questioned, maintaining tone neutral. "Perhaps a payment method for us," she uttered. "Something minor for food and services."